All right, I'm going to smack the record button over there. Man, I am shocking everything tonight. If I don't actually somehow electrically discharge my computer and shut it off, because I did that to my laptop the other day. I walked in and I had all this static, and I was just like, I pet the cat, or I pet the dog, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to go touch my computer. I touch it and it goes zap. And the whole thing shuts off, and I'm just like, this can't be good.
That is wild. That's far too much static. How do you carry all that static within you?
I was just a second ago like this lavalier thing. I just touched it, and it was like zip, and I'm like, ow, that's kind of annoying. So,
it's simply flying through with static.
Well, welcome, ladies, gentlemen, cyborgs, and other human forms of all types. I am glad to finally be back on the airwaves after what seems to me like an eternity of actually not making content. And I want to explain the reason it feels like an eternity, because there's a weird timing with how I guess I typically try to record this show with Alex at the moment. And that's on, we start on Thursdays. So inevitably, when you get sick on a Wednesday night or Thursday, or like, kind of like, hey, you can't really do something, then that leads to the next Monday not having something. And then when you're continuously sick up until the next, let's say, Thursday or Friday, well, you already missed the window for the next week. And then when you're like, maybe this is not going to work, or, schedules don't work out, then you're at another week. So by that point, you're already at like 3 weeks where you didn't make something for maybe like 2 real life weeks of actual thing. And it's just weird to think like, time goes that fast, but like I don't know, like do you experience time different now that you're older? Like I feel like
absolutely
like I don't even like I talked to you like a week ago. Like I feel like nothing has missed, but the reality is a big gap in time actually has passed, enough time where we have some pretty interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of things that happened in regards to these past couple of weeks. I know it was when you messaged me when you initially got sick, you're just like, wow. So, all right. So like the day we get all this information
what a bad day to feel like, what it feel like death.
Yeah, right. I was just like, all these new spoilers and everything were coming out for new armory decks. And you're like, oh man, what a day to be sick. Oh, don't worry. We'll talk about it next week. And then the next week came around. I was like, by the way, still death. Everything is death. We'll get to it the next week. And it's still like, it's still fresh in my mind and it's still fresh in your mind. But it is like kind of funny how quickly time has gone by. It's been, 3 weeks, right? And so
I still and I don't know what it is. Like, I really don't know what's going around. And I don't want to blame it.
It's awful.
I don't want to blame it on like the locals, but I have seriously, I've been going to more armories. Like I've at this point been doing, I can start talking ad nauseum about like, this is all armory pack stuff. I finally I've gotten to the point now where I've been to 3 or 4 armories. I missed that one that was, or the kind of the 2 that were during that downtime. But man, I'll tell you that has made me want to go. My schedule in a week now is like Mondays are D&D, Wednesdays are armory nights, Thursdays is this, and Fridays like a swing shift of like maybe we do something else or I try to do something interesting. And like the amount I'm putting back into trying to get into the swing of things of doing more flesh and blood with, I would say, physically going to the armories because of gym packs, it's invigorating. I mean, the group I'm with right now, there's a guy that he literally travels 2 hours to come to that armory because he goes from Kentucky up to here. And I will tell you, it is exciting to see that he is that passionate about the game. It really is. It's exhilarating.
Yeah. I mean, gem packs really have done a lot. I know that we're moving into the 2nd month of gem packs, so it's crazy to think that it's been a month already since gem packs have been released.
I really want to finish the art cards.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. I got our one of our local TOs. He's picking up people's art cards who don't want them whenever they open their gem packs.
I will absolutely. Yeah, if you have extras, man, let me know because I'm close on the Aesir. I guess it's 2-sided. So there's the Aesir and Kano's on one, and I think it's Azuri and the Emperor on the other.
Yeah, it's Azuri and the Emperor on the other, and it's Typanis and Kano on that one. And honestly, I don't have nearly as many as I thought I would because I keep getting duplicates.
Ooh,
and I don't
excellent.
know. Yes. It's insane. And so I'm just like, okay, cool. And it's going to come to the point, right, towards the end of this season when we're moving on to Gem Pack 2. I think it's going to be a lot of people meeting up at, big events like nationals and stuff, and people being like,
What do you get?
How many copies of this? Like, I'm missing the bottom left of Kano. Do you have that? Like, that's, I think, even just for the simple fact that those cards are not going to attain like true value, right, over the course of whatever. The fact that we're at a time in our lives where the joys of trading can be done for pennies on the dollar is so good.
I was going to say, at one point, I was pretty, I don't want to say anti-trading because that makes it sound really bad, but like, I had a lot of feels bad moments as a child when I would trade something and then inevitably the popcorn effect would happen, right? And I hate to say that Flesh and Blood is a popcorn type of a game, and that is not to be mean to Flesh and Blood, but that is the reality of what I have noticed is, I mean, a card just a couple days ago, Crown of Seeds, which I know we'll talk about later, but like, holy crap. It went from $10, $20 a card to now it's $60, $70, $80 a card. And it's like, why? Like, I get the why. I say why. I
it's
say
like, you
why
know why.
as a stupid response to the why. But like, there's a part of me that feels bad every time I trade something. And I'm like, man, I traded, as an example, I traded an extra Flick Knives I had for a whiteboard tunic. At the time, Flick Knives was, actually less, then it went way up, then it went back down. So the reality is, at the end of the day, I still got exactly what I wanted, but there was that weak time where I was like, what did I do? This card just doubled in price again. And it's like, holy moly. Cause I gave away another 10 cards or so with that essentially were traded at $4 or $5 a card that also went up in value. So like, hands down, I got a not great deal on it, but at the same time, I needed it for a collection, so I'm not mad at it. But it's just, that's the nature of how fast I think some of the prices can swing in this game. And it is
for sure.
It is something that I have had multiple conversations with some locals at the Armory where I'm trying to not sound like an overly negative person, but I think that there are some serious concerns I am starting to have for certain card values within the game, that if they don't get a reprint or don't have a solution, because I don't know, they can stick them in gem packs, right? They can stick them in an expansion slot. But I don't think the expansion slot, now that we've kind of seen this play out over the last couple of sets, I like what the expansion slot can do, but it's not fast enough for the reaction of the pricing of cards, because I'm assuming the expansion slot gets baked into the set a year ago. Right. So if they want to do something in an expansion slot in a primary set, now this is where the Crack Shuffle play with the Guardian Mastery Packs coming up, that might be useful, or that might be something that could change it up a little bit. But I don't think there's going to be an expansion slot in that set. I don't believe so, because
that wouldn't make any sense.
It's focused on
it would not make sense. Yeah. And especially since like you're supposed to take all 3 packs and slam them together. You're not really supposed to. You don't need to like take cards out or whatever. So I'm sure there's not.
I also want to put
concept, but yeah,
one other interesting rumor to rest that I at one point heard, and maybe it kind of came about from just the knowing that certain items have gone up a lot. I'm going to pick on the KO Armory deck as a great example. That thing is like, what, $99 now on TCG Player or something ridiculous like that.
There's no freaking way it is. Are you kidding me?
It's silly expensive. It's now I'm going to say that, and it's not going to be. I'm going to.
Yeah, right. That.
This is the eat crow moment. I'm gonna eat crow, right? Like, let's do it. Let's just
Armory deck KO, $66, which is still significantly higher than what it should be.
That's not bad. Okay, so was it at one point $100? I thought maybe I'm thinking I'm crazy.
Let's see. 2 of them sold at $104.98.
Okay, so it did get up
in February.
It got up to a little bit of a high price. So why I'm saying that is the LGS that I am currently going to, kudos to them. They have some older product. I actually, because I am a sealed-ish collector, they had a couple things and I splurged, and I probably shouldn't have, but I ended up finding they had an Outsiders box that was still there. So I picked up one of those. I also noticed that they had a Rosetta and a Part the Mistveil, so I also bought one of each of those just to make sure I could have them, because I know that those are seemingly pretty hard to come by right now. But why I wanted to bring this up is they have like 10 Armory decks left of KO on their shelf. They have a bunch of, you know, the variety pack of these out there. So they definitely seem like if an LGS bought into it and they weren't all sold through, they're still out there, and they're selling it at not the TCG player price, but the officially stated, you know, regular price that the, you know, MSRP is on them. So that's a
Yeah,
huge plus.
absolutely. I think that's what it should be too. I mean, like it's these are decks meant for new players to get in and play.
And we've absolutely seen that.
I would not believe that this, whatever this price swing is here, I imagine the only reason prices swing so dramatically in that situation is if they get like an insane amount of them get bought out. Like I don't know any individual who would truly purchase a KO Armory deck for $100, but 2 people did, and so I don't know. I feel like it's a
weird world out there, man. It's
yeah.
I mean,
the other
even
problem also is
the Jarl
I mean, it's
deck's
the fact
$60.
that the Jarl deck though is an Armory Origins deck, which should be $60, right?
That's MSRP or 70, I think,
that's
MSRP or something like that.
It's like 60. It's like $60, but it's like 55 UPP or whatever the hell it is supposed to be. But these decks, you know, the age-old adage is, you know, it's only worth what people are willing to buy it for.
Oh,
and if people are willing to buy it for $100, right? It's 2 cases in which, like 2 situations in which somebody had bought it for $100. It could have been from the same person, or it could have just been 2 parents of children trying to get into a game that didn't know any better and said, hey, you know, do you want this for your birthday or whatever, and purchasing it for them at that moment. And so
grandparents spend money on their kids a lot.
Exactly. Right. And that's entirely it. And it's, those things can occur, but as far as like an overall market shift, I mean, like, what if we take a look directly at those in the 3 months, it looks like maybe like 2 or 3 are bought every week, but they climbed pretty quick. They were at, even at the end of last year, they were at $75. They went back down to 65, back up to 75, climbed all the way back up to 100, and then dropped down back to 70, and now they're at 66. So
I think by the next time this airs, I think I'm going to take a little bit of my, I guess, next paycheck, and I'm going to purchase, because I think they're relatively affordable right now, and I like my class so much that I want to have some, because I opened all my bright lights. I see bright lights is out there for like $65 a box. And I'm like, you know, I just need to pick up a couple of these before they're all gone. And same thing with heavy hitters. Like, I really like heavy hitters, and they're relatively affordable right now. So I want to get a couple of those to have for later in life, to be able to say, hey, you know, I see you at a place, let's, you know, sit down, jam maybe a sealed game, or, you know, whatever.
Right.
And with having 24 packs, the sealed pool and the newer stuff, right, is technically you do 8, so it's 3 per box. But if you go back to WTR, technically I think those were like 6 per, because that would mean that really you could fit 4 if you kept the old style, or you could try to shift to the new one with 8, but I don't know if that really helped that much. It might.
No, it was 6 packs. I mean, like, I think I like the 8-pack version a lot more. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more packs I get to crack open, right? It's essentially the concept, but
sure.
It's I think if you're able to get boxes at a pretty cheap rate, like you should definitely do that, because they're not going to be that cheap for long. I mean, if we take a look at like Dynasty, Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh my gosh, Dynasty was ridiculous. What has happened to it?
Crazy. And I mean, like, it's a set that like nobody cared for when it initially came out. And then all of a sudden,
I got to raise my hand and say I cared about it, because that mechanologist card.
No, I should say not everybody cared. Everybody cared for it back in the day. But yes, effectively that's the case, right? Is that they had, you know, like, it wasn't a set that was like, oh my god, this is a draftable set, we have another, you know, new heroes to join in. They got Arachne, and then nobody was able to play Arachne because Arachne was bad. And guess what? Huntsman is still bad.
Huntsman is still bad.
Still bad. But Dynasty has grown significantly, right? We know the print run for Dynasty. We know that the more that boxes get eaten up, the higher the price of the box will go. A lot of the cards
can't believe Command and Conquer
rising.
The Fabled's now $1,200 to $1,300. Now the last sale of that
Mm-hmm.
that I can see, again, this is just on TCG Player, was not that 1,300. It looks like the last actual sold was about 800, but somebody must have bought them, and
Right.
now they're like 1,200, 1,500, 1,800, and it's like somebody either knows something that nobody else knows, or again, it's iconic, right? It is a Command and Conquer. It is a very beautiful card. I just don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. I wouldn't have bought it at 800. I mean, I probably would have bought it at 500 if I just had 500 as a set collector. I definitely want one. But like now that
Right.
it's like that price, if I'm only, if I ever open it, great. I'm not gonna spend that kind of money on it. Like that's
Yeah.
even the Marvel Emperor. Okay, this is the part that blows my mind. The Marvel Emperor is now sub $600, but that's
Uh-huh.
$1,200. But the other way around, it was like 6 months ago. It was the other way. The Marvel Emperor was like $1,300. So why did it drop? Like what made it go so low?
I mean, it could be some people are selling copies of Emperor more frequently now, as you know, maybe they're just trying to
Or
offload
they're
some
not
stuff
playing
and make it
Blitz.
pretty cheap. Well, yeah, or they're not playing Blitz. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons why cards can go up or down. Normally, they go down if many cards hit the market of the same type. But also, cards tend to also go down if they don't sell. And
That's
so,
true.
if a card is $1,000 and it doesn't move for 2 years at $1,000, people are probably at that point just either going to say, "Screw it, we're going to keep the card," or they're going to go 50% off. Let's just like cut it
Sure.
down to 5 and see if we get a bite.
Well, we got at least 3 main topics that I believe I kind of put in the chat, and I don't want to waste too
Mhm.
much more time with not jumping into one of them. So, which of the 3 would you like to kick this shindig off with?
Well, I think probably the most impactful thing that happened this week, and by this week I mean like 2 days ago, a day ago, 2 days ago. It feels like forever, but we did get the new ban and restricted list for Flesh and Blood, and boy howdy, was it was a doozy for probably me specifically, and also 3 other people in the entire world that play Commoner.
What Dice
But Blitz
Commando
also,
and
yeah, but Blitz also got some pretty insane stuff as far as what was banned there. Obviously, Zephyr Needle and Transcend or Traverse the Universe being banned in there is to stop Zen from doing Zen things even more than he already does, in an attempt to keep him around even longer because they robbed him of his time in the sunlight during the last skirmish season because they did not nerf him beforehand. Now it looks like they're trying to nerf him again, just to make him a little bit more viable, even though I still think he's like insanely powerful even without those cards. But they did unban Crown of Seeds. And Crown of Seeds is something that has like been banned in there for a little while since they didn't want like extensively fatigue-esque stuff happening, I guess.
well,
And
that's the saddest thing I just realized. I don't even have the dang Crown of Seeds. I was looking and I apparently opened a second heart instead of a crown,
oh,
and I opened a shock charmer. So because of that, I guess I don't even have the Crown of Seeds,
not even a
means-
crown.
which means technically I guess I got a box of unlimited Tales of Aria.
Let's crack it open right now. Let's go. Crack it open right now. Let's go.
No.
Open sealed product. Open sealed product. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but yeah, that's the thing. Like Crown of Seeds, a card that maybe a few months ago or a month ago even, it's like $10, maybe, right? 15,
I think it was
20.
like closer to the 20s.
Yeah, and even still, $20 for a card that it's banned in Classic Constructed. It was banned in Blitz. Obviously, you can't play it in Commoner. And
Well, but what's
like-
crazy is it was also, I mean, this reminds me so much of Art of War, because Art of War is banned and it's like $7 now, but it's not a legendary. So maybe that's the reason why. But I don't know.
the reason why what? The reason why they unbanned it?
No, why it spiked so big, because
Oh, it spiked so big because Terra is going to be the best deck in the Blitz skirmish, and it's going to be it's literally the game-changing card to make a Guardian that was already like utilizing fatigue strategies like Count Your Blessings and utilizing cool Earth strategies and Decompose now they get access to filter their arsenal and prevent damage. Like there are people who are winning their armory game or their blitz games with Terra with 40 plus life in a blitz game.
That seems ridiculous.
And that's insane. And so the reason being is skirmish season is about to come up. And the reason why cards tend to go up in price is when you can be competitive with them in a format at the time. And so they just recently unbanned it. Because they unbanned it, everybody's trying to buy them up because they didn't buy them up when they were $15, $20. And now it's a race to the top. And so the card's going to continue to get more expensive until people stop buying it. And then when people stop buying it, they go back on the market when they realize they no longer want to play Blitz. This is like probably, I think, this is the most I've seen a card rise because of a Blitz change, because nobody in the States at least buys Blitz. And if you look at TCG Player,
that's
most of the people,
States.
like, that's just the States. And so for the fact with so many people buying up copies of Crown of Seeds, like it's either players or it's sellers trying to get the copies.
Hey, I got a dumb question because I actually don't know the answer to this. And again, I'm not trying to get political with this. If I buy a card on TCG Player, but the seller's in Canada now and they have to import it to the US or come in, does that count as an import? Would I have to pay tariffs on that now?
There's only, I could be incorrect on this, so please don't flame me in the comments. But I believe the only way you're paying tariffs on anything is if it's a purchase of over like $800.
Oh, got it. So it's probably not something like if
it's probably not something insane like this. I mean, if it is, then like
I was just trying to figure out because
but...
I was going to look at not this one, but I think it's Card Trader is another one to look at because I've seen some on there, but I don't know if that's going to be easily able to get cards.
So Card Trader, I believe, is actually all done through Germany, if I recall. Effectively, what I recall based on, I guess I technically still do have a sponsorship with Card Trader. And all their things that they do is they get all sellers from across the world to ship in their cards to their base in Germany, effectively. And then people purchase from Card Trader, and then they send those cards out from Germany to everywhere across the world. So that's instead of it being all places across the world going to all different parts of, everywhere, it's instead you can order cards from this place. It'll come from, the seller will get pinged that they want these cards. The seller will then ship those cards to the Card Trader headquarters, and then those cards will get shipped out to you. So, yeah. But I mean, there's definitely I'm sure at some point there's going to be more additional stuff, but
yeah, gosh, Crown of Seeds even on there is $89, $102, $119, $238. So even more expensive than currently here, I guess. So
it's going to get expensive because, again, another thing that, big surprise. Another thing that did not happen was people did not open Tales of Aria en masse. And so because they didn't, Crown of Seeds is hard to come by. This is
especially
the same deal
Unlimited too, because the Unlimited even
there's even less of that.
Even less.
But did you see what happened with Dyadic Carapace?
No. Should I be scared?
I mean, Dyadic Carapace was initially, when it first came out, everybody thought it was kind of dog water. And so it was like a $13 legendary when Dusk Till Dawn came out. Slowly began to creep up and rise up to kind of like that $40 mark when Viserai was able to use it, or when Aurora started using it in Rosetta. And so you saw a little bit more use of it, but it stayed right around $40. Viserai LL'd.
There's an extended art of it too, right?
There is, yeah. But I'm talking about the regular rainbow foil version of it.
Okay.
This card went from literally the day before Viserai LL'd. I looked on TCG Player, and there were a decent amount of copies sitting right around like $50, which is a good price for a legendary. But Viserai LL'd, and everybody found out that Aurora was like the top like Runeblade aggro deck after that, and the card spiked to $130.
Oh my gosh!
So
there's not very many copies on there right now.
Nope, there sure is not. And again, Dusk Till Dawn was not a set that was opened a lot by many people, and so because it wasn't.
Have that in my
you don't have a lot going on.
I need to.
So yeah.
know.
Yeah, I would double check, because if you're trying to sell them, you could sell one to me
Diadem
for a
of the
good price.
Dreams.
I don't know that I'll
What
buy
about
it for $129. But
Diadem of the Dream State go up? Probably not.
no, God no.
Then
It will at one point though, because that's how Flesh and Blood works. So
Hey, look, I have a
eh,
Dyadic Carapace. It's right here.
nice. There you go.
I do have one. Next to my stack of 3 Quiver of Abyssal Depths. Hey, I do have my Flick Knives still. Yay, I got one. Woot.
There you go. Yeah, it's been a time with the market, just simply because we're getting so many new additions to new heroes, and new things are coming
New
out so
players are
frequently.
coming in. I mean, that's nice.
New players are coming in to get a whole bunch of new stuff. So cards are continuing to rise in price pretty significantly, because again, not a lot of LGSs are opening up product to sell. Like,
Well, especially
most
older
people are
sets.
just
Yeah.
yeah, and most people now are just recently, if a store has originally was selling Flesh and Blood back in 2020, and then decided to get out of the game because they no longer wish to sell it because they didn't think it was worth their time. Now they're looking back and going like, "Oh shoot, okay, well, there's money to be made here." And it's, they're missing out on so many different sets that have come out since then. So
Well, and most of the stuff people are probably really needing are actually really more from the 2.0 blocks. I mean, the 1.0 stuff is still doing pretty good, but like, yeah. I do, by the way, this is kind of an awkward throw in here, so apologies, but Michael and Roger, so thank you for all of your podcasts in the past. I know you guys aren't doing that anymore, but I just, I think it's the first time I got to say that, here, but appreciate all your stuff, even though I know you're not doing it anymore, so. Good luck. Good luck on your future endeavors. So, because I think that happened fairly recently, if I remember, they kind of permanently hiatused their podcast.
Yeah, I know that Roger ended up starting a new podcast called Roger That.
Yep,
So
I saw a couple of
check that
those
out.
episodes.
But yeah, that is the thing. But yeah, I think the market for sure is in a very, very odd place. But I think it's just we're seeing a huge influx of new players come in, and we're seeing new stores pick up Flesh and Blood too. So that should hopefully assist with getting a lot of these there. But I think that's just going to kind of put more on LSS to reprint more things, I think.
Well, with where we're at, because High Seas is coming out fairly soon, right? Within 2 months ish, right? I think somewhere in that ballpark.
June.
So 3 months. I know we really don't locally have any hunted. Do you foresee more of that stuff? I hear it should be coming, but like, what do you think? That
there's a wave 2.
Okay,
wave 2 is coming. I don't know when, because obviously I don't have insider knowledge to distribution or anything. But I have heard that wave 2 has been launched out, so stores should be able to accrue more hunted. Which is good.
We've been wanting to draft it. That's why we're not finding boxes. So
yeah, I mean it's definitely hard to get it right now. I think it's probably the driest I've ever seen a set on a shelf, because it's been 1 month since the set has released, and we still do not see nearly any of it. I mean, the stores I go to are rationing sets to only have packs available for prizing and like a box to buy singles out of every now and again, but it's not in mass. And I think that's really what it is. Something that was brought up when I watched the Min-Max Market Watch that came out.
That was a recent
effectively video. Yeah, that was recently they came out with it, and they said that the whole thing with the hunted is that stores normally would want to buy like a pallet of a product so that they could open it and push it and get cards out onto the market. But currently most stores are only being allocated to like 8 cases, maybe, if that. And
when you say stores, I know my LGS ain't buying a pallet of any set, so that must just be a min-max.
Most stores that heavily deal in Flesh and Blood would buy something like a pallet, but also like if a store is like pretty, I guess, like well set in the Flesh and Blood market, I would say they're probably buying a pallet. I think that just looking at the overall market for the hunted right now within the first month is enough for any TCG store, any LGS that sells Flesh and Blood cards or cards in general, can reach out to the distributor and say, hey, I would like a pallet of this. All you need to do is open it and sort it. That's it. Open all the products, sort it, and it's insane EV just because right now the cards are hard to come by and people want to play all the new cards.
But
So
I guess my question would be is, let's say this was a standard release without the restriction of the current stuff. Would we still see these prices that you think these cards are at? Or is that part of the reason the appeal of this is here? Because again, it's supply and demand. So if there were multiple extra pallets of stuff or whatever quantity theoretically would suffice the market, you know, is Shelter still going to be $60, $70? Is, you know, Command and Conquer still going to be $80, $90? I think the answer is yes. But like,
I think Command and Conquer will be. And I think again, like the other thing is that, especially with the market of Flesh and Blood, the card also needs to be playable.
oh sure,
Right? Like
yeah.
there are still cards that are generic cards that were released in the Hunted that are for like $2, $3, right?
Oh,
Dual Threat
absolutely.
is like a $2 card. And it's not because it's, you know, there's a massive printing of Dual Threat, but a small printing of Shelter. They're both the same Majestic slot, printed at the same rate. The issue there is that Dual Threat does not see play nearly anywhere, whereas Shelter has been hyped up and is utilized in so many different decks
Well,
that
like,
now its price has gone up.
looking at Rosetta, Felling of the Crown is a $70 Majestic. And
Yep.
the guy last night at the LGS popped a pack or bought a box, and he got a foil Felling of the Crown. So it's
Nice.
like, you know, obviously some of these cards are pretty expensive. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm looking at like Truce and Call to the Grave. Those are generics, but they're like $16 to $20. Cut Through Facade is also almost $20. So it's like, even the generics, there's not a lot of low dollar amount generics, and that's both a good and a, I guess, a bad. I don't know. I don't see it being a bad thing, but I kind of miss having some low value stuff, but I also get that some of these cards are used in a lot of places right now. So, I mean, my Adaptive Dissolver is only like $8, but that's a mech card, right? There's just not a lot of
Right.
mech doesn't seem popular, but maybe Max is gonna. I mean, Hyper X apparently popped really big,
Yep.
as well. So,
And of course, that was done because of hype. Because quite literally, Max the Hype Nitro is getting his own armory deck. And so when that was announced, of everybody it's so funny because it's time and time again something that we see forever. Like literally, I think I've actually genuinely seen this happen for the past 3, maybe 4 sets, in which cards that are tied directly to certain play styles are completely and utterly shunted by the market, and they don't see any play by these heroes because they're just like better value cards overall, right? Like you see something like Crown of Providence and you're like, that is a better value card than Hyper X3 if you're trying to play that. Or like even the new Armory deck stuff from Dash.io is something that's even slightly better to play. But when they introduce a new product and that product says, we're doing it for this specific hero or these specific classes, everybody who had even a slight thought of Hyper X3 went, I gotta buy 12 copies because that way, whenever, you know, when this deck comes out and it eventually works with Hyper X3, it's gonna absolutely change the game, and like everything's gonna be different, and Max is gonna want this in every single one of his builds. When like, you know, like you could have bought it 3 months ago when it was still very, very cheap, and
I did.
nobody was buying it.
I bought
Right.
my extended art because I'm a mech lover, and I have my EAs. But at the same time, I didn't buy 10 of them, right? Like I could have probably, but I just bought the 1 or 2 that I wanted to have because I like it. You know, I'm still shocked.
Even buying one, like even buying one is fine. Like that's, if you're just getting enough to get a playset early when you see it, that's good. Like this is a PSA to everybody. Go look at every single one of the expansion slot cards from now until back in Bright Lights, okay? Look at every one of them. If you can find any of them that are under $5 and you can buy a playset right now, go buy it. Because those cards are eventually going to hit something to where even if they don't actually work with the hero, right? They're going to announce, right, all these cards that are coming out for Bolton. Everybody's just like, okay, cool, like $2 card, $3 card, whatever, right? Not a big deal. But the second they introduce us, Monarch 3, Bolton Supreme or whatever, where him and Bologna fused and he gets go again naturally, and all of his cards have +2, and he's got a demi hero and some not. Like, if
Over
all of this
9,000?
occurs, obviously right now I'm talking big hypotheticals, but like anything could quite literally happen. So if you can purchase them and be proactive in the market and purchase them at a cheap price now, when they go up, you don't have to worry about being like, oh my God, like here's a flesh and blood market trying to, steal all my money and not allowing me to play any new hero that comes out because I have to spend $25 on a Majestic that I could have bought for two pieces of gum in 2024.
1980s 2 pieces of gum in your Ghostbuster card wrapper that's
Exactly.
hard as slate, and you shouldn't eat it, but you do because you enjoy the crunch and have to pay the dentist bill.
Right. It's insane. I think it's just like, it's one of those things. I mean, we even see it with freaking Trench, right? We don't know anything about High Seas yet outside of the fact there's pirates in it. But Trench rose up in price.
I actually,
it's stupid.
So there's a guy in my local group. I asked if he had some bulk cards that he wanted to get rid of, and he said, yeah. And I said, I'd buy it. And he said, well, hey, do you have a Trench? And this was actually kind of right. I mean, High Seas had just come out, right? I haven't actually looked, so I don't know if Trench has gone up, but I already agreed to this, so it's going to happen either way. But I said, yeah, I'll trade the Trench for these bulk cards so that I could have more options of things to maybe fill in gaps or, do other stuff with. What is Trench going for now? Because maybe he's ended up on the upswing of this one.
I think Trench was like $45 last time I checked.
Oh my gosh! So it's already, that means that it would have already gone up almost $10 past what
Trench is $42 right now. The cheapest copy is $42 on the open market right now for rainbow foil.
Okay, I mean, not bad.
And that's just. That was just the breaks.
I'm also excited. I bought my extended art Trench of Sunken Treasure way back when I was like, I really want this because it is one of my favorite arts. I think I've said that now multiple times, like across a variety of these. But I'm just excited that is. Now, I do want to point out something interesting that I actually noticed when looking at Trench of the Sunken Treasure. If you pull up the EA and you pull up the non-EA, this is, that I can tell so far, one of the only examples where the artwork is shifted. So if you click 2 tabs and you have both of them open, and you in TCG Player go from the extended art to the regular card, his head on Trench of the Sunken Treasure is behind the text. But when you go to the EA, his head is further down, and you see more of the mast, and so his whole body drops into the text box. But the other EAs that I found so far are the same photograph in the same position. They don't drop down. So, Dyadic Carapace.
Dyadic doesn't do that?
DYA. Oh, I lied. Dyadic Carapace does the same thing. I did not notice that.
Empyrean Rapture also does the same thing.
Wow. Okay,
if you look at Empyrean Rapture.
Maybe I'm just a dum-dum because I thought that was a unique thing, and apparently it must just be something they did on the EAs.
Nope. Yeah, it's just the EAs. The EAs, you get to see the full picture of the individual in the art.
Wow.
Yeah, like Empyrean Rapture does that.
Dum-dum, like live. Me being a dum-dum live. So, did they also do that with Redback Shroud? Did they do that too?
Yeah. Yep. Redback Shroud is the same way.
Because I bought one of those and I don't remember. Oh, I have to get rid of extended art in order to see both of them. Hold on. Yep. Yeah, the face has disappeared and you get to see the face. Wow. Okay. Well, I'll be a son of a gun. Hey, apparently there's a Trench Behemoth in Commander Legends, which also shows up when you type in Trench.
Oh, some more Trench goodies.
Oh, Lordy.
Crazy. Yeah, I'm it's just another example of how if you're proactive in the market and you can look online and literally just go look at everything that is Flesh and Blood and then put on a filter for Majestics and Legendaries and just keep buying shit until you're at like $20 a card and then stop.
There is actually, if I just look at legendaries, there are actually at this point in the game 15 EA legendaries. The 12 petal Kasai, Hyper X3, Empyrean Rapture, Warblona, Arknight Fortress, Mask of Recurring Nightmares, the newest one from Hunted, the Kabuto, Mask of Deceit, Transcend. So this is a relatively newer thing. I mean, Bright Lights brought in, from a set perspective, Outsiders looks like it's the oldest with 2. Then Bright Lights has just the 1. Looks like Dusk Till Dawn has 1. No, actually, Bright Lights has 2 because Bologna. Does Dusk Till Dawn have 2? It does. It has Empyrean Rapture and Dyadic.
Yep.
Rosetta, is there 2 in Rosetta? No, looks...
Barkskin and Millennium Tree and...
But the Barkskin and Millennium Tree, I guess, is not a legendary. That might be the only reason it didn't show up in this search, then.
Barkskin and Millennium Tree is a legendary.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Ooh, then apparently TCG Player doesn't have that as extended.
Yeah, they're probably just labeled wrong. Yeah. They tend to be... depending on the set, I've seen them change what exactly
Rosetta's Face Purgatory. That card's $140 for the extended art.
Yep.
I just, it is intriguing to see that they actually have a variety of these. So like 3, 6, I mean, with 15, it's more than a binder page. Like you could really get a pretty nice looking collection if you said, hey, I want to collect all of the extended arts.
Yep. So they're pretty. They're pretty. They're hard to pull. And I think it's definitely a good thing to collect if you're collecting. The
prices on these EA Majestics like Shelter and Call to the Grave, which even Truce, which doesn't have an extended text box but still looks beautiful nonetheless. Like even the 10-foot tall and bulletproof extended is like, that's like $60. And Earthlore Bounty, man, that thing went and did a pop, and I think it dropped back down, but it's... That extended Earthlore is what, $45?
And again, Earthlore Bounty. What was that Earthlore Bounty? What was that cold foil Earthlore Bounty going for?
A year ago, it was. Oh, well, okay. I'm gonna go back to August of last year, Gen Con. They were $8 to $10. I bought 2. I think I bought 1 or 2 of them back then.
$10.
And now it's $40 minimum. Like that's the absolute bare bonum.
That is literally what I'm talking about. Again, it's just like that is such.
Please, everybody, you should buy
such an important thing to keep in mind.
Silver Palms is the best card ever. You should
Silver Palms.
You should speculate.
You know what? And you
should
buy Silver Palms. You want to know why? Because they print a freaking merchant in high seas. Everybody's gonna be pissed off because they didn't get a copy of Silver Palms.
So great. Oh,
that's what I'm talking about.
Now I want to know if people been buying it up in speculation. Now I gotta go look.
You can buy any. That's the best part. The best part about Flesh and Blood. You can buy anything in speculation. Literally anything. I could buy 20 copies of.
How cheap is it? Is Silver Palms that cheap?
Bonehead Barrier.
Oh wow! Holy crap! Silver Palms is $16 right now.
Yeah.
What? It jumped up. It was a $10 card, and people must have been speculating. Now, I will say that even though the price has gone up, according to this, there's only been a total of 8 sales, and I mean, nobody's really actually buying this. It doesn't.
Nobody's really actually buying them, but even still, $16, you should buy it. Just one. If you just need one, even if you're just like, yeah, I just want to make sure I have it in case I want to play Merchant ever in the far future where Merchant is a viable CC hero. Like
I play it in Blitz, so I have mine. Well, I play it in I'm sorry, UPF. UPF. Right. I guess you could technically play it because Cavdane would be able to play in Blitz. So I mean, it has multiple functions for me. I enjoy it, but I already have enough. Like I didn't buy lots of these. I have enough of these. Let's just say that I don't have more than I should, but. I don't have this many. I wish I had this many of these, like I had crack baubles, because that would be hilarious. I would be. I just put them across the background. I just have like a whole wall full of.
Right, just a whole wall of them. My God,
Silver Palms.
Yeah, no, I think it's seriously just like situations like this where people like a card will spike in price because of hype, and then I'll see 20 people on the social medias go, well. This is it. Flesh and Blood is too expensive, and I'll never be able to get into this card game ever. And it's just like they're gonna reprint something if it really needs it, or like they're gonna
Well,
do something,
you
but like
people may
you
not
gotta.
realize this, but in the Guardian Mastery set, this will be one of the first times, if I understand right, Grandeur of Valhai, right? I think that was shown on the box, so theoretically that could be reprinted, if I understand right.
I do not recall Grandeur of Valhai being shown on the box.
Or
Is that correct?
am I insane?
You might be thinking of the archive pack that came out for Japanese.
That might be what I'm thinking of.
They did print that Fabled in non-foil, but
Okay.
obviously all of the cards from
oh sure, from this
Everfest
they'll be first edition cold foil or cold foil regular. They call it first edition in this one because there was an unlimited that doesn't technically exist. So really I think this was technically the first 2.0 set, even though Uprising really is 2.0 number 0 officially. But now that there is no second printing of this, I lump it into like a maybe 1.5. We'll call it Flesh and Blood 1.5.
it's like 1.12587 or whatever the hell, like pretty much the same concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is kind of something that's at least changed in that regard. I know they something that people were upset about was that Rampart of the Ram's Head in that archive pack got a reprint as a Marvel.
But that is so people were cool. I don't see why that's a problem. I mean, and
the problem is that there was a cold foil version of the card in Tales of Aria, and that cold foil is supposed to be like the best version. But the issue here is not the fact that it got printed in Marvel. It's not an actual issue because the Marvel version that was printed in this archive pack
wasn't a misprint.
First and foremost, so the shield is a misprint, and so what they do instead is they give this token into LSS, and LSS gives them a Marvel version, but the Marvel is a non-foil. It's a non-foil Marvel.
But see, I want, as a collector, and I now probably never be able to get this because I don't know if they're all going to be destroyed or whatever. I want the misprint because I also collect misprints. I want one of those, and I want another one that I can turn in to get the other card, which I think
I'm sure you can get archive packs and crack that open and have that happen because it seems to be pretty common. So
I was gonna say I absolutely enjoy misprints. Now I haven't heard anybody talk about barcode cards in a while, but I also haven't seen very many of those for sale. I haven't even seen. You mentioned lore books in one of you were talking about in one of your more recent videos. You talked about lore books. I keep searching the purple Discord to see if people are selling lore books, and every time you type lore book now, all I see is the mats because there's the lore book mat. Yep. I have not seen a lore book for sale in that purple Discord in a long time now, and it's really sad. I think I missed my boat on trying to get one of those. I really do.
Well, don't get me wrong. Last I saw, again, I shout out to Max for doing more like cool vlog stuff. But MinMax was selling a lore book at Memphis when they were in Memphis for the calling. And that's just because they were, Peter's got like
I'm sure he has
20 plus of these. So he's got a lot, but I know that he's kept a few, and trust me, I want to get them too, because the reason you stopped seeing them too was that they stopped being the prize for winning a commoner event at the callings.
I thought it was for cosplay too. I thought that you would get a cosplay.
No, you get a tailor. You get Taylor for the cosplay.
Okay.
Yep. I think maybe third place or something got a lore book. I'm not sure how the prizing structure was previously. Sure. Now I know that through cosplay, at least from what I recall, is that they've cut it into 3 different like categories, and the winner of each category gets a tailor effectively. So,
wow,
that's pretty cool.
I keep forgetting that there's a PDF of that because that's where I found the PDF and printed.
Yeah, theoretically, we all already have the lore book. I mean, like, it's never stopped. It's never stopped being a thing that you could just search up and go look at and do. But obviously, having a physical copy is a treasured thing for sure. So
I would treasure it. I mean, I would actually still, similar to how I did the mechanologist head mat that I had, if I had a lore book instead of using that mat, I would have opened the inside of it just like a yearbook for going to school, I would have had
Right.
everybody I met sign this book. James White, every content creator, anybody,
Uh-huh.
right? That's what I would use it for on the
Right.
cover, on the inside cover, because to me that is something that I still to this day go back to my high school yearbooks every once in a while, and I'm just like, man, whatever happened to that person? And then I look and I'm like, looking at all the silly things people wrote in there. Some of it's very inappropriate now for this world we live in, but back in our time,
Times
holy
they do
moly,
where they are changing. Let me tell
holy
you.
moly, there was some stuff that when I looked at that, I said, ah, that was considered normal then. Wow,
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Odd to go back into an era and just be like, wait a minute, that was just how people spoke, huh? That was just what
Mm.
we were doing. Okay.
Well, I do want
Yeah.
to at least go back to the banned and scheduled announcement and say I know we talked about a couple different things. I'm not going to read this, word for word, and I'm going to steal a Dice Commando thing, but I'm going to respect your intelligence here because there's no sense in you can read this. Like, there's a lot of good
Yeah.
information in this, but I am interested to see that they did seemingly say that classic construction is they call it the best it's ever been, and the funny thing is, I didn't know they released this. And I saw James White's tweet because I was really busy at work, and then I ended up responding to it.
Uh-huh.
And I said, my guess would be is that nothing's going to happen in CC because honestly, the CC format feels pretty good. And I said, but I bet
Right.
something interesting is going to happen in Blitz or whatever. I didn't say very much. And then like 3 minutes later, I scroll down, and apparently this had already been out for like an hour. So I'm like,
Uh-huh.
well, now my response seems just stupid because now people
Like
are going
you
to be
just
like,
read it.
you probably
You were
read
like,
it.
oh yeah.
I swear, hand on Bible, whatever. I did not read it, but I mean, it's not like I knew that they were going to ban certain cards, but it's just interesting that my sentiment about how, CC felt, it seems to be the same sentiment that they are having. It seems that it is
Yeah.
very balanced. Now there's still
I
certain
think
heroes that are not going to be, you're not going to see a Victor, you're not going to see a Betsy. Those heroes right now are not having a good time.
well, okay, so now hold on,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
A Betsy made a top 4 of an RTN
Ooh.
and is going to Nats.
Okay.
So just remember, it's about the player, not about the deck.
No,
And that truly
I've said
is-
that a couple times to even there was a gentleman that is really pretty much brand new, is running a deck that's mostly all commons. He was running Fang. I think the value of that deck, he was telling me, was like $25. And I am running a Dishonor Katsu, which, probably clocks in at the several $100 mark with, all the
Right.
crap that's in this, right? Including all the legendaries and other junk that's in it, Mask Momentum, Tunic, blah, 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 all that crap, right?
Right.
He wiped the floor with me. Like that deck was like, I'll block for 3, with the card. And I'm like, he's like attack reaction, buff. You block 3, still take 15. And I'm like, okay. And then like then he's like, I now have 3 fealty, so I'm gonna do this and then do something and get a second dagger, and then I'm gonna like play this, and then I get to play my dagger a second time, and then buff. And I'm like, you just did like 30 damage to me in one turn. And I'm like, is this what Fang is? And then the guy that's like 3 down, the one that's been pretty much consistently placing first, he plays Fang. And he's like, yeah, just wait till he gets the legendaries, because I played against him, and he does very well as well. So it's just interesting to see that like every hero has a yin and a yang kind of a thing, but even fairly brand new player with a mostly common and rare deck can seriously wipe the floor with like just
yeah.
I mean, that amount of damage is so hard to keep up with. And I was an aggro deck, and I was like, I can't keep pace with this. I was not.
Yeah.
But it's not that it's unhealthy, because there were other people, like we had Dashes playing at the event. I think we had, like 2 weeks ago, there was somebody playing a Kano. That was kind of exciting. And then we would switch decks out. So somebody else was playing... I don't think it was a Victor. No, there was a Guardian of some sort. But a lot of Fangs. Fang is very popular. Another interesting fact about the Fang decks that are around, apparently 95% of the deck is all cards from the Hunted, and the only other card that's in there is really a card that they're using from Heavy Hitters, which is like a Warrior card. I forget which one it is, but it's an expansion slot.
Yeah.
But like that's it. It's all like confined to the Hunted, which is making it really hard to actually find those cards because most of them are in the Hunted. So it's like,
Yep.
great. So.
Well, luckily, I mean, most of the stuff, outside of like, I mean, the Majestics are a little bit harder to find, but even still, I think those Majestics are at least somewhat easier. I think Savor Bloodshed's probably the one that's like the most got like a $16 or something out of it. I think like Hunt's End isn't too bad, but yeah, I mean, it's effectively a pretty solid aggro deck with a fridge. So
Yeah.
it is it
those
is a good deck.
what is it? The Obsidian Fire Veins. They're such an intriguing concept of a card where you know, if you've played the Draconic card, this Chain Link, it gets the +1 and go again. So it's kind of like a different variation of the Katsu, but the go again piece is conditional on if you have the Draconic piece. So it feels a lot like Katsu in some ways, but like I feel like it's better. I don't know.
I certainly wouldn't consider it like Katsu personally.
Really?
But
Okay.
that's just because it's very much so like it plays a lot like a Hatchet Story does or a Kasai does, right? Where it's your main goal is to attack with your weapons, and then sometimes you attack with an attack action, right? And so effectively being able to go attack action, 0 for 2 go again, or 0 for 4 go again, then attack with your weapon, attack react, and then attack with your weapon, attack react. Like the amount of damage that can be pumped out, the reason it's so high is because the deck is mainly red line. And so red cards obviously being able to provide the most amount of power to your deck. It seems like it's a lot, right? But at the end of the day, if you're able to rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, it's not as effective. But
the Aurora that I was facing, that was another deck that's pretty popular. That Face Purgatory, or they popped it and they did where they discarded the card. I think it was discard a card from my hand or something. And that really screwed me. Like that literally lost me the game right there. When that happened, I was just like,
yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah. Yep. Not too much you can do in that regard. I mean, like there are those disruptive turns that really change the game. And so that's really something that I think is incredibly effective to just kind of make sure that your disruption is still going to hurt aggro decks. I know just yesterday I was playing against one of our locals and he's on Syndra, but I'm playing Vincent. I was able to, for 3 turns in a row, deny him his arsenal and rip 1 to maybe 2 cards out of his hand for 4 turns in a row. Wow. And that was enough for me to just gain such an incredible lead that he could not come back from. And I'm telling you, if you can rip cards out of your opponent's hand, it's why I like Assassin, it's why I like Runeblade for that kind of concept too, is just being your Shadow Runeblade more specifically, is so just be like, cool, okay, get those cards out of your hand. Like, I don't want those cards in your hand, get them out of your hand.
Sure.
And it changes their game plan.
What do you think about the pricing of the gym pack weapons? Because I'm just staring. I mean, I get this as TCG player, but like $129, 129, 80, you know, 110 for the Graphene Celica, and then the reverse is like, you know, 50. It's crazy to think that those prices are on that, but like I was just looking up a oh my gosh, apparently you can get a cold foil harmonized Kadachi. And apparently they're not very expensive for a cold foil.
They're not expensive.
And I'm just like, if a cold foil of a original OG Kadachi is only like $50, $30 from Crew, because it'd be Crew's the cold foil one if I remember right.
So if you're looking for, there is a cold foil version of it that is actually the promo weapon that you were able to get when you bought a box back in when WTR was first released.
That's $32 for that version, and then there's the other one.
Crew has the one that's the right-handed version of it, the one that's going the other direction.
Significantly more expensive. I think that was about $110.
Yeah, that one should be more expensive there. So,
but it still amazes me that like the pricing of something like that, as an example, compared to these newer ones in Gym Pack. The Gym Pack ones seem like they're very much more. You can get a pretty decent price off of them, which just
I mean they're sought after, at least because obviously Fang players, that's their weapon. They don't play any other weapon. That is the weapon they play, and so that being the case, it is going to cost more if people want to enjoy Fang, and with Fang being more popular, it is also a big thing to pick up. Another thing is also Syndra obviously wanting to run Draconic Daggers, and so Draconic Daggers, Kunai of Retribution, Syndra is super popular and doing really, really well in the competitive CC world. and so people are going to want to make her, bling her out, and that is kind of the way to do that. But where you don't see it is for Mark of the Huntsman and for Graphene Chelicera. Graphene Chelicera, a little bit more expensive than Mark of the Huntsman, but nobody's running Mark of the Huntsman because they're rather running Hunter's Clave. So
if you can
that
find
card,
them.
Exactly.
That's been a local joke at this point.
Now,
Is people can't find the darn card. I don't even know what a cold foil of that would go for. That's probably stupid money.
I think they were going for like $100 or something, if I recall.
Really? I figured they'd be a lot more than that with how rare the regular one is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the full value of it is there, but I know that's kind of what we're seeing again. Like it's based on the popularity of the hero and what weapon it uses, right? If Fang instead used 2 Quicksilver daggers, you'd see Dynasty Cold Foils go shoot to the moon. Because they use Fire Vein,
I would love to learn Assassin better. I think that I tried it, and there's a lot of trickery that you have to kind of.
It's a lot of trickery. It's a very tricky class. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it's not super tricky. I think if you're playing new, it's far more tricky than if you're playing like Slippy. Slippy is very aggro focused in that regard, and so a lot of it is just like,
Slippy's down to normal pricing now. I mean, about $300 seems a lot better than the $600-700 that it was kind of at one point. So
yeah, I'd rather use the 0 gauge foil I got anyway. So yeah, that's kind of the big takeaway from that is there is, again, it comes down to what cards are being used, right? Right now, what cards are being used, and a lot of those cards are from the Hunted, especially since Syndra has become so popular and is doing so well in the meta. You're going to see a lot more people picking up, Oath of Dragon Blood or Art of the Dragon Blood. Art of the Dragon Blood, that's what it's called. And then Oath of Loyalty and all that stuff in regards to how they're going to set up this hero. And then Mask of Momentum obviously being super expensive, Flick Knives being super expensive. It's just a very simplistic deck at the end of the day for what it is. So
makes sense. Well, let's see here. What do we got? We hit the first topic. What's topic number 2? I know we're already.
We can quickly talk about the fact that we didn't talk about the commoner bans.
That
occurred.
That's probably
crazy.
pretty important right there.
It's at least important to me. It's more important than the bans to me for Blitz to me. But that was crazy.
I will say that it is interesting that they did specifically call out that they banned a legendary, and they kind of had to talk a little bit about why that's important in Blitz because of the consistency component. So because they're typically pretty gun shy on banning legendaries.
Correct.
But as far as in the commoner, right? Weapon, and then they unbanned something that I would have not thought ever would have got unbanned, which Ball Lightning was. That was kind of the bane of my existence when I was playing Dash back when, Briar was, it was literally, I think there was it was the BCW gentleman, Rick, I think was his name. And he was doing like, basically Cheerios Briar, I think was what the terminology, but I think that Ball Lightning was like a staple component of it, if I remember. So
yeah,
now
card is incredibly powerful. And the fact that it's back is really, really good, at least for Lightning heroes. I mean, like Aurora kind of was doing okay, but the fact that Aurora has Ball Lightning now is pretty important to her game plan. I think overall, though, it is seeing Waning Moon go means that you're not going to see Icelander very much. And that is a huge change in Shift because Icelander being able to tax your opponent and also attack you on your opponent's turn is absolutely destructive to a red line deck like Fi or Fang or Dash. Even Dash isn't really red line, but like kind of in that same method of like you're trying to just attack with your whole hand. Icelander kind of kept that in check, and obviously you still have Oldhim, which is probably going to see a big resurgence in all of that. But Enigma is a terrifying hero in Commoner, because she effectively just says block 12, send 8, and like a pretty regular amount. And most obviously with Commoner being so, small 40 deck format, and not being able to tech into everything, because obviously it is an evergreen format, so every hero is viable. You're not like filling your deck with poppers. And so your Enigma's also playing poppers or playing phantasm cards in the deck to prey upon those those very big aggro heavy decks. Not to mention that the build that I'm at least playing is even playing Zealous Belting, which is crazy because that just means I get to go 5-go again, pitch a 6-power illusionist card, and then attack you for 8 with my illusion. So with my Spectre Shield. So it's like that's a lot of value coming out of there. But Waning Moon being gone means you're probably not going to see Icelander as much. And if you are, she's not going to be anywhere near as powerful. You do also have Rosetta Thorn being banned.
Because they're signature weapons, does that also mean that they would still disappear if they hit Living Legend? Or this is just like a before they've hit Living Legend?
Commoner does not have a Living Legend.
Well, okay, that's true. So that doesn't carry over to, because I thought that would still carry over. Oh, okay.
Nope. There is no Living Legend system in Commoner. So even
that sounds
if
like they should. Wait, somebody did a video on that. Now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm saying this out loud, I swear I literally just listened to. Was it you or was it?
It was me.
It was you. Okay, this is how much content I was consuming when my brain was in fog mode, and I'm like, somebody had a conversation similar to this. Because, like, when you're sitting there, like, half, like, I don't know, I don't want to say Xanax, that's not the right word. I was just sitting there, like, basically on, Tylenol, staring at the ceiling and listening to stuff. It's like, I remember most of that, but then at the same time, you're like, somebody said something good. I should go back to that later. You were the person that said something good, and now I'm like, connecting the neurons again there.
And it was funny because that I genuinely, for one, didn't even know there was a ban list happening at the time. And so I made my recent Commoner video, not the one of the battle, but like the one beforehand, where I essentially just asked individuals, like the community as a whole, what can we do to fix Commoner, right? Because I feel like with Icelander being kind of in the top spot for a long while, for a lot of these heroes to have never seen, they only get better things. Nobody ever ends up getting worse. The bans are nowhere near as strict. We end up seeing just kind of like a couple people sneak in here and there, but it's mostly the same offenders for who's at the top table of a Commoner event. And literally a few days after that video gets posted, huge bans in Commoner and unbans in Commoner. And so it is
it's an ever evolving thing. Like, I mean, face it.
Yeah.
At this point, if you don't own your copies of, let's just say it, if you don't own your copies of the cards that are banned in CC and you want to play another format, you should probably go and pick those up because they're cheap. A good example being, I don't know, what was recently banned? Art of War, right? And why not make sure you at least have those at $6, $7, $8 a piece or whatever they're probably at? Because
especially since you can still play them in LL.
I know. I don't understand why the card went so low. I really don't.
It genuinely is because so much of the market, so many of what people want to play is Classic Constructed. Like, that's it. Classic Constructed is bar none. The reason why people end up staying with Flesh and Blood and sticking with it is because they want to play competitively in the Classic Constructed format. And when something of the hero leaves, that whole talent and or class tanks. And when that happens, you have to have other people go, okay, cool. Well, like, I'm going to sell off all my stuff because I was a Viserai main for, 3 years. And now Viserai can only be played in LL. I'm going to sell all my stuff. But what you should be doing is instead going, I can play Viserai in LL. Don't sell any of my things. Keep everything I have for Viserai, and then also upgrade it with some of the stuff that's like crazy powerful for Viserai, like Bloodsheath Skeleta, a super banned chess piece that's a Majestic.
Oh my gosh!
That is
the history pack.
Super cheap to find.
$3. The history pack
cheap.
version is $3.
It's cheap.
Holy
it's super
moly.
cheap.
But
and that's how it is.
But this is the opposite of popcorn. A year ago, it was $40 for a history pack. And a year ago, before it was banned, the regular Art of War was, I mean, looking at this, it got up to $40 or $50 a piece. So within the calendar year, it went from $40 to $6. I get it. It's banned, but like, it's still interesting that there are formats that these are usable in. I'm sure UPF, like, does UPF, I mean, UPF has a band list, but it's a very small band list.
UPF has a very, very small
I
band
think
list.
It's still technically like what, Drone of Brutality, which basically breaks everything, I think. Rules and Policy. Nope, that's the wrong one. Formats, game formats. I want to double check something. I am wanting to know, Mr. UPF, who is the card legalities here. We has it can't be much.
It's not a lot. I know.
Go
it's
Bananas and Yorick. Drone apparently is Happy Go Lucky in UPF, by the way.
Yeah, literally most things are good to go in UPF. Like it is truly a format that is just kind of like okay, like let's get crazy with it. But it's also because it's not, it's supposed to be for the fun of social event and hanging out and doing all that. So
Kraken's Aether Vein got banned. Yeah.
That got banned in Living Legend. So
I mean, honestly though, looking at the amount of cards that are banned even in CC, like just looking at, I mean, that's Blitz, but even in just CC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 cards. That's it. That out of the whole, however many thousands of cards, 21 at this point.
21 cards.
And of those, most of these, Bloodsheath is a equipment, Crown of Seeds is an equipment, Dustblade is not a mistake. It's equipment, sorry. That's funny. But I mean, there's a couple of these are a piece of equipment. Most of them are cards in deck, though. So, and specifically one color of Country Blessing. So, very intriguing. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, moving on. All right, I'll stop stop yapping about that one because that's fun. Kidoki. So, don't need that tab anymore. Don't need that tab no more. We covered that ad nauseum for the banner stick. Did anything else further you want to go on that, or are you calling that good?
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, I'm going to have a whole video out on the commoner ban list stuff too. So like, feel free to check that out.
Yeah, I'll
have that up.
I like listening to videos when I'm driving. So that's my podcast consumption if I can. And then I guess we'll go to the next one, which is they did announce the Max deck. We don't really have terribly much information on this yet.
No.
I think there was one item that was spoiled, kind of like a teaser of sorts, if I understand correctly. If I go to my FAB spoilers folder here on my magical discords, which I don't really talk too much about because it really doesn't have a lot of activity on it, but I see that there was a new wrench, bank breaker, and we got a clamp press, which is also intriguing because what's nice about this is those specific cards. I like that the weapon is a straight mechanologist weapon. It does not have a specialization component to it, which does allow, theoretically, a little bit of mix-up in things we could do for even a dash or a data doll or, I'd say Max, but obviously Max is right here. I want to know, what I want to understand is typically, the mechanologist, at least with the, I guess, Dynasty, steampunk style, big mech robot, that card, the big one.
Yeah, that one.
The big mech machine Construct Nitro Mechanoid. I'm wondering if this deck will be a Construct Nitro Mechanoid or if they are going to basically completely revamp it and attempt to release him as something completely different and have a different strategy, or if he's going to go down that path. And this may be where we see a variation of Nitro Mechanoid provided as a cool way to do this. What do you think?
I do not think they're going to reprint Construct Nitro Mechanoid in this deck.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because instead of doing that, they are going to make it wrench focused because you can put things underneath the wrench.
But we still don't know how to do that, and that's another mystery of weird things. But we can glean a little bit of information when you look at Construct Nitro Mechanoid, because you have to banish specific items, such as in this case 3 hyperdrivers, the arms, legs, and so you're taking your chest and your pieces, and you're basically taking away parts that are really good to make that better. Because that wrench has such an interesting ability, there is going to have to be a suite of cards in this deck that will do something to put cards underneath this. So when it attacks, you may banish a card under it. If you do, it gets overpower. So because it has a single attack activate if you've cranked this turn, but it says twice per turn. If you think about the turn cycles in Flesh and Blood, probably if you assume a game's going to go 5 turns, that means you're going to have in the game 10 maybe so cards underneath this at minimum, right? At some point, right? Because they're going to want to cycle through it. So whether those are items, whether those are crank items, whether it's an item that generates some magic token that we've not seen that then gets, consumed underneath this, like, lubrication grease or, sprockets or bolts or, self-sealing stem bolts. I don't know. That's a Star Trek reference there. Sorry. Latinum. I don't know. Like there could be all sorts of interesting components they could try with that, but I am genuinely curious how they're going to try to make a card, because when you think of the game Flesh and Blood, you have to have cards in your hand, you're drawing and you're using and you're pitching. So maybe you have to pitch the card, and when you pitch it, the extra effect puts something underneath it like a token, or by pitching it, you have the option to, instead of going to the bottom of your deck, or there was mechanologist cards like Overloop that go to the bottom, maybe instead of going to the bottom, it goes underneath the wrench, but then you're also draining your deck down, kind of like a boost.
I think it's still going to have a mechanologist feel to it. I don't know. I mean, normally, if you consider an armory deck, really the only things that get printed that are like new are usually either
Majestics.
Obviously, the equipment is going to be new entirely. And then
maybe it's the
you have maybe like 3 cards. Right.
Maybe
the equipment could very well when this equipment breaks, put it underneath
but that limits the amount of attacks that wrench can have per game, which I think would be pretty silly. Because face it, having a weapon that you can't attack with at least once per turn, I think greatly limits
so you'd be able to attack with it once per turn. If you wanted to attack with it again, you'd have to remove the thing. Is that not correct?
The way it reads is it says twice per turn, 1 resource attack. Activate this only if you'd crank this turn. So the attack itself is only predicated on the you cranked. So
just like Banksy.
But it doesn't have native go again. So to give it the go again, you would have to banish a card. So it says when this attacks, you may banish a card from under it. If you do, the attack gets overpower and go again.
Right. So effectively, another thing that's also for like the general constructed section, right? Obviously, if the equipment breaks and goes underneath that, that's not like ideal for a mechanoid situation. So I expect there to be some cards in the deck that, much like Fast and Furious, if you boost this card, put it underneath the wrench or whatever, right?
Sure.
But what that does is it also makes it really cool for when you actually do have Nitro Mechanoid, right? When you take out the entire concept and you actually bring in Nitro Mechanoid, Nitro Mechanoid then can attack more because you have more cards underneath your wrench.
And that is the cheeky thing you just mentioned that I was about to go down, because that is the whole shtick with Nitro Mechanoid is it's very limited in scope of what it can do, because you get 3 hyperdrivers, head, chest, arms, legs, and then a single weapon. And even in this scenario, because the wrench is a 2-handed wrench, you can't do that. Now, if you use the arm piece that was in there that gives like something that gives it a +1 when it's underneath, or it counts as
under,
it goes under. So that gives you a total of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But if you had stuff under the wrench, like 2 or 3, that give you 10, 11, 12. Like it can really extend the threat ratio of what Nitro Mechanoid can do. And it kind of ties in, right? It already has overpower. So when you look at it, I mean, other than the fact that it has temper, so you can block 5, 4, 3, 2, and then you really don't want to do the one because it would destroy the mech.
Right.
Um, but I think by that point, if you've already done a block of 5, block of 4, block of 3, block of 2, I mean, that's, you know, 4 different turns that you've already blocked, 9, 12, some absurd amount of blocking, while also
Right.
still threatening, at least, if you can give go again somehow to this, or maybe this deck will have something that allows Nitromechanoid to get go again, because really natively it doesn't. So create quicken tokens or something like that was where the whole get multiple action points kind of comes in. So maybe with cranking, right? Maybe that's how they expect you to get multiple action points.
They're gonna bring back high octane. Bring it back.
Yeah.
That's what they're gonna do.
Pretty please.
No,
You heard it here
don't bring
first,
that back.
folks.
Not at all. Do not do that. Bad.
All right. Well, that's
But-
everything for
Yeah.
for that. I guess just a real quick kind of casual mention here, but if you think the first part of our conversation with the pricing of Flesh and Blood is pretty high, check out other formats like Commoner, like UPF, like Clash, because those formats do not necessarily require the highest power, highest value, highest dollar amount cards, and you can get into those fairly cheap.
Yep.
My notation on this, by the way, just for the folks in the video watching, was playing or how did I actually word this? It was FAB in today's economy, or something. I don't know where to go. It says gaming in this economy. That's what I said.
Gaming in this economy.
Yeah, that was my joke. So.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, honestly, that's kind of the big deal, is that there's, I mean, obviously I preach it over on my channel, but like, if you're looking to play Flesh and Blood, you don't need to spend $1,000 at all. Buy an armory deck. Go find a commoner armory. Go try and get 3 other folks to get together. You build some decks out of bulk that you have, or that you were able to get from your locals, and then just like play kitchen table FAB for like a month, and then kind of figure out if that's something you want to continue doing. Like, I mean, it's really, really simple to get like fully in depth into Flesh and Blood for pretty cheap. And like I said, if you even, with the market talks we had, if you are proactive and you're just picking up things from the market that are cheap at the time now, you'll definitely not regret it in the future when those cards end up raising in price. And then you're going to be like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't know that this was going to be that expensive. And now you don't have to worry about buying those cards at, the hype market price that it is.
So let's wrap out stuff with this high seas stuff. Now, I know we talked, I think, at one point, this is back from February 9th, so about a month ago, where they did the reveal of high seas. What officially has been really discussed at this point? Very little, I think, correct?
Very little. Nothing has been discussed. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe there are like leaks floating around,
or spoilers of some sort.
I don't know whether or not those leaks are accurate, obviously, but from what I'd seen, that's kind of cool. But I think the only thing that right now is a big concern for a lot of players is the timing of high seas, because high seas is being released.
You mean like it might be a low tide when it's released, or a high tide? Because high seas, they recommend a high tide.
It'll be a high tide, and it'll be a very, very bountiful, rich, flourishing tide for anybody who sells Flesh and Blood, because High Seas is coming out on the same day that Nationals is for the US. And that means that if anybody is looking to use any of these new cards in their deck, or maybe they are looking to swap heroes to something they deem more efficient towards the new meta, we had seen it with when the when the Hunted came out, and they had the calling just like a week after with all of the Hunted cards. Syndra took it by storm, right? And was able to do it because nobody really knew what to do into that. So if you are comfortable learning a new hero, and those heroes are actually good, going into a new meta, you very well could spike an entire national championship, just because you were able to get a hold of the cards before another person was. And while LSS has stated that they are going to be upping the allocation for stores during
That's true
pre-release,
because they had that dev talk with Brian and
yes,
James, and they kind of really tried to reassure folks that was going to be a positive outlook as far as stocking was concerned.
yeah, but I think even still at the same vein, like unless you need 3 cards, like an expansion slot, unless you need like 3 cards to upgrade your deck to make it like the most viable, there is still the opportunity that there could be a new hero that gets released that's as good as Syndra on release and needs to be like, you need to purchase everything from high seas. And while the allocation is probably higher for sure, they're also allowing for 2 pre-release days per LGS now, which is really good, and they're allowing for people to play draft.
Great. That is an excellent thing, and yeah, I remember. I think we might have touched on that, or I know I think I made at least one video on that as well. But like it's a huge shift because I also was always kind of like, man, it really stinks that if I miss that one day, if something comes up, I'm sick, car problems, whatever, had to work, emergency, you name it, any problem you can think of.
Right.
Now you're screwed. And if there's a limited amount of places in your geographic location, or you really prefer one particular store over another for a myriad of other reasons that could be involved, then I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea, and I'm glad that they went down that. So
yeah, I mean, I'm happy that they're doing the draft, and I think the reason I'm happy they're allowing for draft more specifically than anything is because if you have qualified for nationals, you need to know how to draft this new set, because draft is a portion of your national, qualification and championship there. And if you have every opportunity to learn a draft, you should take it, because that is how you go about like learning how to do it and getting yourself prepared for it when it happens. So it's just it's in a weird spot because it's so close to the release of a new set, national championship being released so close to a new set. So many individuals are just like, oh, I'm going to have to pay, people had to pay premiums for shelters right now because there was not enough. And if every set that gets released increases the populace of Flesh and Blood by like, I don't know, 10%, right? That's more people now who are still going to be looking for the new stuff, which means more product is going to be bought up. And normally product is only ever bought in mass when a new set comes out. So,
and I think somebody did somebody was trying to do some like how many players have come in and grown since a certain amount of days over like the last 6 months. Somebody released some data or was talking about, I don't remember where I saw that, but they definitely had some pretty solid evidence that the game was actually growing. And I do truly believe that is the case. And I don't know, I only have 15 XP over the last 90 days, right? I mean, that sounds like a pretty horrible amount, but I mean, I do lose quite a bit when I play. I'm not really winning all that much, but I am pretty active recently. And
right.
I mean, I'm looking at my ranking and, looking at my lifetime numbers compared to the world or the US statistic. I mean, there's definitely, if this is the case, I mean, that's a lot of people for this game. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, it consistently is growing day in, day out. Armories are bringing in more new players because of gem packs, and it's not so much about winning. It's more about just coming in and playing. You've got more people who are reaching out and actually like creating their own scenes again. People are going out and making commoner scenes, or they're making living legend scenes, or they're doing 1Ks locally for their community just because like they want to. There's so many different ways that people are reaching out to do stuff for Flesh and Blood, and you're seeing more and more people join into it. I think recently there was a what was it? I think there was like a pre-release or something. No, there was an armory that was occurring at an LGS, and somebody who was playing Magic came over to see what everybody was playing, assuming that the majority of the room was playing Magic the Gathering. But it turns out everybody was playing Flesh and Blood. And they
Nice.
were like, "Whoa, wait a minute! Like this isn't Magic. I thought this was Magic. It looks like this would have been like an FNM situation." It was during the RTNs. Yeah, people were like, "Well, what is this?"
Well,
And turns out people want to play Fab.
there's a national championship article, and one of the things that's interesting is it says scheduling for the featured national event promo will be capped based on strict allocations. So make sure you get in touch with the organization soon, and that's June 20th through July 6th. And what I'm curious about with that, right, is in that article they show the premier card, which is obviously now the number one pirate, uh, you know, shelter from the storm, and then you got this other one down below it where it shows the cap, basically the same guy, at least I think he's the same guy from Trench Sunken Treasure, where it's the tentacle monster kind of thing. And
Right.
I'm curious. I guess since there's really not much we can, I don't want to go into the spoily things with those because I'm not really sure if they're even legit, and I'd feel really kind of crummy if that was truly some sort of leak, because then
Consider all leaks fake until the set's released.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So.
But I know we jokingly had between me and you, I think we had some conversation where it was like, I just can't believe it's not butter kind of a stuff, right? Where it's like I giggled endlessly when I was like, how would we see this stuff? But thinking of the classes and thinking of some of these opportunities, right? Like just staring at the artwork perspective, this gal on that card has a flintlock looking pistol and presumably a saber, right? So the other gentleman has like a crossbow. And then if we look at this and assume different class stuff that's in here,
Right.
James White specifically said the word pirate. Now, I don't know if there can be a situation where if they tried to release a brand new class, right? I think we talked about this before I was out for the 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, but where if you try to introduce like a assassin style of component and you don't have enough, variety, it would be really hard to build out a full-fledged class. So I almost am doubtful that there's going to be a pirate class unless there's an underlying tone that's like, you're this class like mechanologist, but then you get a bonus by doing something that's different than what your class would typically do, like stealing a trait from another class.
Yeah, I mean, as with all things, right? Like we can obviously take a look at Assassin's initial release with Dynasty, right?
Sure.
In which it was released in a set that was not draftable, but it did contain a huge slew of cards for a new class in which everybody was like, okay, cool, this contract thing. That's what Assassin's going to be. It's very interactive with your opponent's deck and like milling things and getting that stuff over there. And like, that's what Assassin is going to be. And then fast forward to Outsiders, definitely not even anywhere near the same class afterwards. And then fast forward to, Part the Mistveil, where it's again completely shifted 180. And now you look at the Hunted, where it's just like, okay, cool. Now we know what we're doing here with stealth. That's what Assassins are doing. That's this big thing. But it took from Dynasty until the Hunted for a class to be truly defined as this is what we want them to do. This is how this should be taken care of and affected. And that is, that's the cycle you'd have to go to introduce a new class. So even if they introduce Pirate, it would take
Multiple sets
for Pirate to be actually as valuable,
which
unless
they could fill
this
in
whole
with,
set is Pirates.
Well, unless they fill in also with there's opportunity for the Armory deck could fill in a vast majority of a core of something. But
an Armory deck, I don't think would be enough, though, right?
No,
if
I don't
there's
think
one,
it'd be enough.
if there's one hero that's a pirate and that hero gets released in a set and then gets an Armory deck in the same vein, there's no reason for you to buy anything in the set. At least I don't think, because then you can just get everything in the Armory deck.
But they may not be the same. They might be supplemental, is what I'm thinking. Like they could be.
Right. I think what could happen theoretically is I think that we could see a Mastery Pack Pirate come out, in within X amount of times or whatever. But at the end of the day, Pirate being released as a new class, it would be cool. This is a fun thing to play when you're drafting. But outside of drafting, it's not going to be a class that's going to be viable to be played in, at least in Classic Constructed, because you're not going to have enough cards in that overall pool to make them completely effective right out the gate, especially if you're going to share this set with other classes too.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we have had, and I still haven't done my chart on this, mostly because I was sick and I didn't get around to it, but I still want to make the chart that basically goes back and looks at each of the sets and kind of goes in chronological order and says, okay, this set contained, X amount of classes and then maybe a talent. And then this set contained X amount of classes and then maybe a talent. I think FAB did something kind of like that, where it's kind of easy to, digest, but it's not in the format I was hoping for, so I don't think it's going to be super. Like, if card distribution's one thing, but like looking at, I think it's called FAB, and then what is it called? Set information. Yeah, here we go. So Hunted was Assassin, Ninja, and Warrior, so 3 classes with technically 3 talents. Rosetta was 2 classes, 3 talents. Mistvale was 3 classes, 1 talent. Heavy Hitters was really 3 classes, no talents. And Bright Lights was 1 class, no talents. Outsiders was 3 classes, no talents. And then going all the way back to Uprising, which is, I'll stop there because that's really the beginning of this, is really 3 classes with 3 talents. So mathematically, it makes a lot of sense to do 2 or 3, right? Like Rosetta at least gives the 2 as an option. But if you do a 2 class, you're going to have 3 talents. If you do 3 classes, you're probably going to have, realistically, 2 talents. It's kind of like a yin and a yang. They kind of like flip it.
It also could be a talentless set too. I mean, theoretically, right? Because the last talentless set was Heavy Hitters.
Heavy Hitters, correct? Yeah.
So,
and
it very well could be that too.
I mean, looking at again the classes that have come out, just anecdotally, but just the truth. There are classes that haven't been seen in most of the 2.0 entirety. And going way back to the beginning, we have Illusionist, right? That hasn't come back. Well, technically Dust Till Dawn. Dust Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Dust Till Dawn, Enigma also is Illusionist. So
all right. Wizard came back. Ninja came back. Dynasty. You got Assassin, Brute, Guardian, Illusionist, Mech. Mech came out with Bright Lights, so there's that. Outsiders had Assassin, Ninja, and Ranger. We really haven't seen much Ranger. We've seen Assassin, we've seen Ninja.
Ranger, I would imagine Ranger is definitely what we're going to be getting in the set, just simply because like it's been due for new cards since Outsiders. Like, Outsiders is the last time they've gotten cards.
Well, and almost all the piratey spoiler cards are on Ranger cards. Like they today have that, vibe already jiving for
which is also why I don't think they're going to release an actual pirate. Again, I think I said this last time we did this. Pirates, cool. If it becomes a class, cool. But when James White said there will be pirates in the high seas, there were pirates in the Hunted. There were pirates in Rosetta. There were pirates in Outsiders.
There
were pirates.
I think it's a
theme, not a class, right? And so obviously if it comes out, awesome. I don't care if it does or doesn't. But I know that if it does come out, pirate fans are going to be not in a great place unless the cards are so above rate when they initially come out, just to make them like on par with the rest of the classes.
Kind of limits the design for future iterations of things.
Correct.
And that is the other numero one problem, I think, right now with the fact that the classes that exist, it's really hard when a game is developed like this where it is to inject a new class, because the new class, it needs a decent chunk of assistance in order to break through the barrier of minimum viability, I think. Again, this goes back to FAB and using their, stats on card distribution, right? If you start wiping out the specific like equipment and heroes and weapons, and you just start looking at the baseline stuff, I mean, even taking out every talent, which doesn't really fairly represent other things, truly, but talent pool wise, Mechanologist still reigns king. but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still leaning toward it'd be cool to just get a bard. I honestly think that, and this is going to be my hot take because we'll just call it as is. I would be ecstatic if the gal that is on Shelter the Storm is not a pirate, but is instead a bard.
That would be interesting. I would say that'd be very, very interesting to see.
Because looking at the card distribution, Adjudicator and Bard don't really exist, but I get that they're probably not in the prime time.
No.
But otherwise, your bare minimum viability, because Illusionist with no talent is just at around 85 cards. So you could slap in a new base of a set if you stacked on, if you got rid of that and you looked at, one of the elements or something on top of it, you could easily start to begin to slap on different levels of additional cards, because just across the board, other than Mech, because Mech has no talent, which is why I think actually we're going to see, I think Mech is another solid choice in this, because we haven't seen Mech in a while. And I truly think Mech needs some love.
If I were to say there are 3 classes that I would expect to see in the high seas, it's going to be Ranger, Illusionist, and Mechanologist. Those are my 3.
Illusionist. I wouldn't have picked Illusionist, but
yep.
Okay. I think
it's Illusionist, Pirate, or Illusionist, Ranger, Mechanologist, and the Ranger is just going to be very like pirate themed in regards. They're going to be a Ranger, but they're going to use like a pistol, not like a Mechanologist pistol, but like a Ranger pistol.
I'm gonna go Brute.
Like a flintlock or something.
I think Brute would be the other one.
Yeah. Instead of what? Instead of Mech? Or instead of Illusionist?
Instead of Illusionist.
I see.
And I think the only reason it would make sense in my head is because Brute only has one additional talent, which is Shadow right now. So if they introduced a pirate talent, right? Because that's the beauty of this. They could have pirate as a talent instead of a class. So if they...
I'm going to be kind of upset if they do that. I'm not going to lie.
Well, but this is my theory. And if they were to do that, even the cheekiest, smallest amount of talent can taint or change or flavorfully add to a class, right? We've seen what they did with Mystic, right? Mystic exists, Draconic exists, and Draconic dramatically changed Ninja with a pool of only 81 viable cards, according to FAB, if that is 100% right. Mystic was only 45 cards, and look what it did to Zen, right? So there is a option for a talent that could have a much smaller pool, so you could still have those 3 major classes and just drop in 1 or 2 talents that are spread across. And if you even wanted to be really crazy and ballsy, you got 110 shadow cards for Brute. So if you were to just say Pirate is a class and you give about 100 talented cards, but then you slap in Mechanologist, Bard, and Brute as an example, or Illusionist, whatever, take your pick, then you could have a very flushed out pirate fairly quickly. And then it would not impact certain heroes because you don't have to have that talent on those heroes. Right. But then you could also restrict it. And this gets into the fun thing about my little Venn diagram I tried going over at some point, which is the, legendary versus specialization versus what's that other damn one that restricts it even further? Oh gosh, I'm blowing. Anyways, there's ways to make it to where you can focus it laser focused into a specific hero.
Right.
So I think that could be an option as well if they want. Like, people are talking about Riptide. I hear a lot of people, making comments about Riptide needs some loving. And
I don't think Riptide needs any loving. I think Riptide's in a very... Don't get me wrong. I think he could use some loving for sure, but he's really good.
He got a lot of traps. He's a trap man. He's a trap man.
He's pretty good. Like, I kind of like him, and I think he does some pretty fun stuff for what it's worth. But I also know that, it's not the same for everybody, and I know that some people don't view it to be like the best it could possibly be. But I don't know. I feel like
you can be with Bolton. You can be with Bolton.
It's definitely one of those things where as long as the set's a success, I don't give a dang. But if there is a new Illusionist that comes out, that's going to be sick, because I think this could also be an opportunity to introduce, if they are introducing a new talent, making another talented illusionist would be great. You know, even if it's like, you know, freaking water or something, right? Some odd thing in that regard, but I think it's
Or
still a very,
it could be
very
water monsters because there's monsters on all the cards, the tentacles and
right.
the map, and then they had
Uh-huh.
that kind of map when Heavy Hitters came out of like the redo of like the place I think in New Zealand. So like I think sea
Mm-hmm.
monsters will have some capacity in this, and I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be kind of interesting. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's been some random other things that I'm going to try not to go down those mental paths until more of that is publicly available. I think
There's just overall, obviously, with the new set coming out, there's new things that we could all think about that are just like, okay, cool. This could be like the coolest thing in the entire world, and we can just like completely flip the script 180. And like, you know, what if they introduce pirate, necromancer, and cleric all in the same set, and it's just like the most insane
I would
thing, and
die.
like,
My wallet
I
would disappear. I would
yeah.
foreclose my house. I would bury
It's
myself in sand, and I would just
uh-huh.
have to eat cardboard for the next 9 years. Like
Yeah.
I think like you would have distributors doing money go burr, crank the
Uh-huh.
machine and just I want 60 pallets. Go. Don't give it to anybody
I,
else. Here's
I
my left kidney. Go.
I already think they're gonna do it. Like, I think just the fact that it's pirate themed, I think is enough for people to be like, yeah, I'm gonna,
Oh,
you know, we'll
it's
buy a
gonna
whole bunch of
be
this.
absolute insanity. So
Yeah.
well, sir, I think we probably should wrap things up. So I
Yeah.
appreciate everything. And do you got any final maybe comments? Anything fun? I know that
Um.
it's a little bit longer of an episode, but I know we kind of skipped some stuff. So this is a nice little kind of get back in the fun thing. I'll try to make the next one shorter. I promise. So
No, that's okay. I mean, as far as things go, keep an eye out for stuff over on my channel. Obviously, I'm making some content for Commoner. There's like some changes that happened with Clash recently that are pretty important that I'll also be talking about. Um, and overall, it's just going to probably be just like me hanging out. I've got a couple content creators out here in Colorado that we're looking to collab with as well and do some in-person games and stuff like that. So I'm very, very excited to start doing that,
nice.
and making more appearances on their channels and stuff too. So busy, 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 busy. But luckily, it's all for Flesh and Blood. So
Sweet.
that's what I want to be doing anyway.
I do want to call out one thing that I saw. I think it was hot off the presses earlier today. I was attempting to do something like this. I guess I just never really made it super public because I kind of gave up with the podcast aspect of it. Not the podcast
Uh-huh.
piece, but I was trying to document all of the podcasts for Flesh and Blood and write a review
Mhm.
on each one. But Yuki Lee Vendor just released something. It was kind of like an evergreen. This is like the people that talked about fundamentals of FAB and some different stuff like that. So
Oh,
it's kind of
yes,
like
yes, yes, yes.
variety of evergreen content. I think there's quite a bit of other videos that I probably could locate and pass that direction that I think are pretty interesting. They may not be specific to gameplay related. Maybe what they're trying to collate with that is very specific to like rules and gameplay and metrics and numeric values behind stuff versus like here is historical information on these sets or why that it's maybe a different kind of thing. So when they
It's
say
definitely more
evergreen,
so about it's more so about like the play of the game, like
got it.
how to grow as a player in Flesh and Blood.
Then
If I
I will
recall
probably
correctly.
not be on
So
that list. So
no, I
that's
mean,
fine.
it's like 7 links, and all of that, like 4 of them are Yuki's
Yeah, and
links,
most
and
of them
like
are
it's
even Mike. I think I saw some of the M&R stuff on there as well. So
yeah,
that's good. But either way, I just wanted to call that out. That's some good stuff. Go watch some of that content if that's something you're interested in. I
yeah,
mean, it definitely is solid advice. I know I listened actually when I started looking through and clicking on them. Most of those videos I had watched at one point or another. Like,
right.
just being around the community for as long as I have, I've listened to a lot of these variety of things. So doesn't mean that it helped my skills personally because I'm a casual, professional
Filthy,
casual.
filthy
So
casual.
filthy casual that loves his crack baubles. So. I don't think, can you register a crack bobble in an actual deck? I don't know if you legally
Yeah, of course
can.
you can.
You can't, but you can only run 3, right?
You can only run 3.
Can only run 3.
In Classic Constructed, you can only run 2.
And I can run Titanium Bobble. So this is my call to James White. We got to have Crack Bobble, Titanium Bobble, Christmas Bobble. Well, no, Christmas Bobble is probably Crack Bobble. It's still Crack Bobble.
Yeah, that's.
But if we have
Crack
enough
Bobble.
bobbles, I could legally register a deck that is nothing but bobbles at a Blitz tournament.
You know what you can do instead,
Ooh.
which is really, really funny, is you can show up with a deck with a bunch of curled foils in them.
Oh.
And if you're fun fact, if you did not know, if you present your deck with curled foils in it and you get deck checked, and you do not have, you nor the judge have proxies of cards to be able to put into your deck to replace those, they are replaced by Crack Bobbles.
Ooh.
So
a plan is brewing. No, that'd be a horrible. Like, I want to play I don't know. Like, it'd be funny to be like, here's my Cavdane with a bunch of the most actually pringled, curled foils I can think of. Like, the deck looks like a taco. Be like, please, sir, let me play with my Crack Bobbles.
And it's like, oh yeah, oh dang, I can't believe all these Crack Bobbles are in poor condition. Oh geez, oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to get them swapped into for Crack Bobbles. Then I guess that's what's gonna happen. So
the dog bites out of the cards and
right. Oh no, I forgot. I forgot to get my actual well minted deck. I brought my super curly deck. Oh geez.
Oh no!
Guess
Let me put it between some books. We'll come back tomorrow and
right?
play.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Just put some Crack Bobbles in there. I'll be fine. Wins with just Crack Bobbles and swinging.
God, that'd be such an epic tale.
You know, at some point, there's probably
Talishar and Bobbles. Talishar and Bobbles.
There's just going to be a fun, silly little way to do that. And,
although Talishar would blow up, I would not be able to do enough damage with that. That would literally not.
You could just play. You could just make a format that's just like
Talishar. And
Bobbles. You have to play like your deck is out of a 40 card deck, you have 20 cards that need to be Crack Bobble. Or Titanium Bobble.
Don't make my brain start going down the ridiculous format.
I'm just saying you could just make a format that does exactly that, and
Bobbles or Bust. That's what it would be called.
There you go. See, you've already got it set up. I don't even need to do anything. You know what you're doing.
Oh, lordy. All right.
You're
well,
SOL now.
On that note, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Go like, share, subscribe, do the thing on both the channels here, and until next time, I'll see you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Yay.
Yay.
I feel immensely better than I did a week ago.
Good.